Welcome back, you guys. I'm your host, Andrea, with From Mrs. to Ms. Today, I'm being joined by the amazing Aly Bullock. Welcome to the show. I love having you.
Thanks so much for having me, Andrea.
Absolutely. Okay, I'm going to tell a little bit about her. We got a lot to tell. She is a busy woman. So she, and I'm adding right here, a millennial mom of three. I actually forgot that as I was just going through your whole bio. A millennial mom of three, a therapist turned coach, content creator, outdoor adventurer, and unapologetic Swiftie. I love that. We're going to catch the
Thank you.
references on that later. Allison is a couple and families therapist with a knack for cutting through communication chaos. She's all about helping individuals and couples get on the same page using her solution focused style, giving you a real practical tools to make lasting changes. She is also the head of relationships at Paired, the #1 couples app designed to help partners stay in love by providing fun, meaningful ways to connect every day. Paired has helped over 4 million couples and has been recognized by both Apple and Google with prestigious app awards, including Editor's Choice and App of the Day. So Aly's Confident Communications course is a game changer for relationships of all kinds. While she dives deep into romantic connections, her insights are universal, designed to help you thrive in any relationship, whether it's your partner, friends, or family. Aly's inclusive approach ensures everyone feels seen and heard. Wow.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. I mean, just hearing that was such an honor, and I just
Love it.
appreciate you mentioning all those lovely things.
Of course. And it's so true. And they should be mentioned because you are busy and you are doing
Yeah.
everything and keeping everything in line for people to have fulfilling relationships, which is so
Yes.
important these days. I feel like the world is talking about dating and relationships as a whole. Like
Mm-hmm.
this to me
Mm-hmm.
feels like the most important topic in our world today. I mean,
Totally.
not like
I mean, it's the
politics.
thing that impacts you, right? But it impacts you day in, day out. Like you could be a billionaire, but if your relationship sucks, are you enjoying life? I don't know.
Absolutely. And that's so true. And so that's why I love having guests like you on that can just kind of give people pointers and tips on what they can do to keep their fulfilling relationships going
Mm-hmm.
and also to help them get to the next level. And so I love that you're doing all this stuff. And I do want to talk about this pair thing a little bit because that's
Yeah.
super cool. We were talking about it a little bit before we came on. And so it's a new, well, it's fairly new, I guess. You started working with them fairly new, but it's an app designed to help partners stay in love, which is a great idea because we always
Yes.
just think of the apps to get people to find love. And I,
Exactly, exactly. And so it's kind of a new niche is this thing called a couples app.
yeah.
So you have dating apps, right?
Okay.
There's a million, everyone knows, but couples apps are what you use once you're in the committed relationship. And so the premise of Parrot is they ask each partner a question a day,
Mm-hmm.
and you can't see your partner's answer until you've answered.
Okay.
And all of the questions, what's cool about the questions is they're all research backed. So answering this question is proven to help you in some way
Yeah.
based on research. And so it's just like a 5 minute a day connection where you feel nostalgic, you feel connected, you feel curious about your partner. And especially for busy parents, busy couples, like this is just such a low effort way to connect that has
Yeah.
great returns.
I
And so
love
it's really
it.
cool.
And is the question something that the app itself comes up with? Like it's just a generic question that they put out. It's not, but it's based on what your criteria is within the app, right?
So this is actually what we're working on this year, which is personalization, which is very
Okay.
cool, where we are right now the app has kind of a bank of questions that we've written and created that we know help. But now once we know a little bit more about you, like if
Mhm.
you are a parent, we're going to sprinkle in some questions that relate to being a couple with kids. Or if you are engaged, we're going to sprinkle in some questions. So it'll be more personal and people really like that feeling of like, oh, this question is just for us.
Oh, that's cool. I love
Yeah.
it. That's a really neat app. So I'm excited for people to check that out and give some
Yeah.
feedback on what they
Yes,
think about
thanks.
that. So let's start from the beginning. So how did you end up going from a marriage and family therapist to now a relationship coach and a content creator and working with paired?
Totally. It has been a journey. So it all started back in college. I actually minored in family studies,
Okay.
and those were classes like parenting, family finance, marriage.
Yeah.
And I left those classes being like, you know what? This is the stuff I actually care about.
Oh,
This
not
stuff
all the
is
other
cool.
we didn't need to know about.
Right? Math?
Yeah.
No. So after university, I ended up being a teacher, a middle school teacher for a couple years.
Mhm.
And when I was finished with that, I thought I want to have an impact like the kids I loved, but the kids who were struggling in school were the ones who had bad relationships at home.
Mm,
And so I was like, I want to get more of the root of the problem.
yeah.
So I went back to grad school and became a couple and family therapist at Antioch University.
Mhm.
And it was in my last year of grad school, I started sharing online on Instagram. And I would just share things I was learning, you know, a little post here, a little post there. And it just grew and grew. And it's been like, I'm in my third, coming up on my fourth year now, and it's blown up. It's led to so many opportunities,
Yes.
and
And you
I
have
reach a lot.
such a substantial following too, right? Like, I mean, your
It's
following is great and just keeps consistently growing.
Yeah, it's been really humbling because people will message me and be like, this advice was so helpful. But being a coach versus a therapist, I love therapy work, but there's a lot of regulations.
Yeah.
And being a coach allows you to reach kind of a wider audience, and so that's kind of why I pivoted into communication coaching,
Mm.
which is really forward focused, helps couples get actionable skills to work on.
That is so cool. I love that you were able to build that. And that is exactly, I love that social media is being used for good here.
Yeah,
Like
right,
people are learning from what you're putting out there and they're acknowledging
right,
and engaging on it. And that helps. It's a win-win because they get their information. It helps build you to get, where you
totally.
need to be to say that stuff. So I love that.
Yeah,
So you have
yeah,
a
thanks.
confident communicator course. I saw this where you help couples redefine the way they connect, especially during moments of tension or disagreements. So, what are the most common communication barriers in relationships, and how can couples overcome them to kind of build deeper connections? What
Oh
do you?
my goodness. Okay, the most common probably defensiveness
Yeah. Okay.
is huge. So people just jump right to defending themselves, and they lack curiosity and empathy for their
Yes.
partner.
Yes.
And that just creates it, a fight could last 5 minutes if you were empathetic, but because you're not, you're defensive, it lasts 2 days.
You're so right on that. That is so true. Yeah.
Right? So there's that. And then another big one that comes up all the time is validation. Like, if I don't agree with my partner, then I'm not going to validate them.
Yeah.
And people miss that you don't actually have to agree with your partner to be able to validate and show care.
Mm.
And so I teach you how to do that. So my course is essentially a crash course for everything I would teach a couple in the first 5 sessions of working with them.
Yeah.
I teach in this course, and it's self-paced and it's a fraction of the price. And so that's why I created it.
Yeah. No, I love that. And again, it talks about then being seen and heard, right? Which is kind of what you're wanting when you're wanting that validation. Is really comes down to somebody just wanting you to see them and hear what they're bringing,
Totally.
right?
Totally. You just want to be understood. If I'm ever stuck in a session with a client, like,
Yeah.
oh, what do they need right now? I have to remind myself, I just need to ask them another question
Yeah.
because they just want to be listened to,
Yeah.
right?
That's a great point. Yes. So on your website, okay, you talk about the 4 keys to healthy communication. Talking about communication. Can you briefly touch based on each of the 4 keys? Do you remember them? I didn't write them down.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I after when I read that, I was like, okay, that was one of my blog posts. I'm going back to it. Um,
Good.
the first one is basically from chaos to calm.
Okay.
So a lot of people are used to chaos in their relationships. They're
Mhm.
used to loud fights. They're used to drama.
Yes.
And so if that's not there,
Yeah.
they think, oh, is something wrong? Is this person just too nice? Like,
Yep.
I'm bored.
Yep. I've talked about
And
this before, Allie, and the
oh yeah.
the City show. I don't know if you
Okay.
watched that. And
I
Carrie
haven't.
Bradshaw. Oh, she was dating this guy Aiden in it. For those listeners, I'm sure a lot of them have watched it. That she was dating him, and she kept going, "There's something wrong." And the girls were like, "What's wrong?" She's like, "He's just too normal. There's just
Yeah,
no drama. Like I don't know what to do."
exactly.
Yeah, and she couldn't sleep at night because she's like,
Oh my
she was
gosh.
now craving that. I would think,
Yeah.
right? So when you're used to constant chaos, you start to
Yes.
crave it.
Totally. And it's a concept we talk about in family therapy called homeostasis, which sounds
Hmm.
very scientific, but it's basically your normal.
Okay.
And so whenever you are out of that normal, so say you're now in a calm relationship,
Yeah.
subconsciously, you are going to self-sabotage to get back to your normal,
Yes.
to get back to your chaos. And so the first principle of healthy communication is recognizing that like calm or boring doesn't mean bad.
It's
You
okay.
have to get comfortable with that. It's okay to not yell.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Well,
Right. What would you say? Are you like when you're fighting, do you like to raise your voice or are you more of the calm
yeah.
tone?
I do. I try to stay calm, but as soon as I get a it's because I get defensive. And then I go into that. It's not that I'm raising my voice screaming, but I get very stern and like, you are not listening to me.
Yeah.
Like I get, like that. And I've been trying to work on that to be more of a listener and not a reactor. I tend to do that. Like I just listen and I'm already thinking of how I'm going to react to it instead of genuinely listening to what they're saying. So
That's the hard part. That's so true. I'm the same way. I'm thinking about my perfect response in my head. Yeah.
No, I know.
The second principle from that was I statements. And
Okay.
we hear a lot about I statements in the therapy world, but an I statement is describing how I'm feeling rather than how you're acting. So if you are sitting on the couch looking at your phone, instead of saying, you're so lazy or you're not paying attention to me, that's a you statement. I'm saying, hey, I'm feeling ignored or I'm feeling deprioritized right now.
Yeah.
And what that does is that the listener, whoever's receiving this information, gets way less defensive because I'm not attacking them.
Yeah.
I'm just sharing how I feel.
Interesting. No, I think that's totally true.
Yeah, so that's one of the main skills I teach in the course. But the third principle is active listening, which is what we talked about a second ago. Like, not just thinking about your response. And so, I mean, key elements of this, which you're great at as a podcast host, because this is part of your job, is asking questions back, repeating back what you're hearing, making sure you really get it before you move on.
Yes. And I have to work at that too, like you said, because it doesn't always come easy. And I was doing almost the same thing for a while where, I would ask you a question and then you'd answer. And then I'm looking to see my next question. I mean, I'm always preparing with my next question, but I'm trying more to hear you and what you're saying and really, like you said, fully understand so that the listeners can fully understand. Because you might use a scientific term, your homeostasis, or something that I would sit here. Because honestly, when you said, which was the one you said something about something.
I feel statements.
I feel statements. When you first said I statements, I was thinking pupil eyes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I was like, oh, how does she mean that? So I'm glad that we're more profound on it so that we can understand it. Because that's the whole point is we need to understand what it means to be in those situations or to feel that way in order to grow. Right.
Exactly. And I just had an experience with a friend this week on this. It's a fairly new friend. We've talked, 4 or 5 times. And I noticed that in our, third or fourth or fifth conversations, I would mention something that I had previously told them. And they would say, oh, I didn't know that. And it was so innocent, but it really hurt my feelings because I thought, I told you this 3 times. And I actually called him out on it. I finally called him out and I was like, hey, I just have to tell you, like, you keep doing this. And they said to me, I have to be honest with you. When I'm listening to someone and I'm slightly nervous, I'm thinking so hard about keeping the conversation going that I'm missing a lot of what they're actually saying.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I get that. I'm not offended, but now that we've talked about it, now listen to what I'm saying.
Yeah, exactly. Because I'm not going to ask you again. Your last time.
Right.
But that was probably good for you to hear too, and to know that and to be able to go, oh, maybe that does happen a little bit more often than you probably even know, like in your courses and stuff, or when you're doing counseling. Because I think a lot of people get very nervous in those situations, and so they just want to and silence is uncomfortable, right? So if they're not thinking what to say next and they're not prepared, then the silence makes it uncomfortable.
Yes, it's so true. It's so true.
Yeah.
Oh, there was one more. Yes, my fourth one was, oh my gosh, I'm pulling it up, but this is timing. Timing is everything. So couples get into fights all the time because they decide to comment on that thing at a horrible moment. Like
what's an example?
If I have this happened in my relationship. My husband walks in the door with the Costco groceries and he puts them on the counter and it's a recurring issue. I'm like, why did you get things off the list at Costco? But I pick up the, whatever it is, the acai berries. And I'm like, why did you buy 2 of these?
Yeah.
And it's not the right moment. He has his hands full. He just did a nice thing for our family. He just drove 20 minutes. It's like, that is the least helpful moment to bring up my issue about the berries.
Perfect example. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I teach couples like you really have to decide to breathe
Hmm.
and let something go until a later point. If it's still bothering you 2 days from now, then have a conversation about it, of course. But we
Yeah.
don't need to say everything in the moment.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh gosh, I feel so guilty of all of these things. But I'm learning. That's why I love having you on because I'm learning. I'm
Yeah.
learning. So okay, I want to talk a little bit about love languages. I know how
Yeah.
important those are. Um, and it's interesting because I'm recently learning it's not what I thought my love language is at all. I thought I was very
Mm.
much physical touch and quality time. It's always
Okay.
been in my head and what I thought. But I've been told more often that I'm not very affectionate. And I'm like,
Mm.
oh. And I know it's always there's a standard of what the affection is. I could be very
Right.
affectionate to somebody who is not, but I guess if I'm
Right.
with somebody who is very affectionate, then I'm not affectionate enough for them. So I'm kind
Interesting.
of yeah, and I'm kind of learning like, oh, okay, so maybe I need to stop saying that is my number one thing because I don't have the desire to be any more affectionate. I don't want
Mm.
to get to their level. So I probably need to put that maybe second and quality time as first.
Yeah.
So I was saying that to talk about how we can understand each other's love languages and how actually understanding them can improve your intimacy, right? And foster a
Mhm.
stronger bond between you two. So can you elaborate a little bit on that for me, just with love?
Totally. Totally. So love languages, there's two sides to it. There's the love you like to give and the love that you like to receive.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we confuse it and think it's just one thing. So I say if my love language is physical touch, then that's what I like to give and receive. But you have to really check in with your partner and understand that physical touch might not be the love language they like to receive.
Yeah.
And so you have to adapt the way that you're giving love.
Uh,
Um,
a light bulb
I'm
just
a,
went off for me on that because I think
okay.
and I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I was
No, go
just
ahead.
going to say that what I just said about the physical touch, I think that's it. I like to receive it.
Mm-hmm.
I like to give it. And I'm lumping it into the same thing that I like to give and
Yes.
receive. Interesting.
Yes.
Okay. Go on. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it is. Like, I am a terrible gift giver.
Me too.
Terrible. I
Yeah.
wish I was better.
Yeah.
And it also doesn't mean that like gifts are nice for me to get, but they're not the most amazing thing.
Yeah.
But my partner is really moved by a thoughtful little gift.
Oh.
And
See,
so it's yeah, it's my job to make an effort just to be a little more intentional. I don't have to change my personality, but like if I can even just be a little more intentional in my gift giving,
yeah.
that would go a long way because that's his receiving language.
Mm.
And so
So we
yeah,
need
being aware of the giving and
to
receiving.
the receiver as well, not just always us and what we're looking for.
Totally, totally.
Yeah.
I mean, with sex and intimacy too, it's tricky because so much of sex is not about physical touch.
Yeah.
Like good sex starts hours before you're even in the same space.
Right?
And so it's really important to understand then like your partner's love language because maybe my love language receiving is acts of service.
Yeah.
And so then if my partner does the dishes, then I'm
Yeah.
like, "Oh, I'm in the mood." Right? It's not just going to be if they give me a massage.
Yes. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So I think it's super important for people to really know and understand their love languages. And
mhm.
there's tons of quizzes out there that people can do,
Yep.
right, to figure that out.
Yep.
It can help definitely in the relationship. So you also had on your website, I love your website. I was going through a lot of it. Really great
Thanks.
stuff. Yeah, really great. And you made this statement. You said when you embrace humility in your relationship and realize that apologizing isn't a sign of weakness, but a mark of
Mhm.
emotional intelligence, you unlock the freedom to make things right so much faster.
Mm.
And that was such a great statement because I think that we never do that. It's again, we always want to be right. We don't want to
Mhm.
apologize. We become
Yep.
defensive. And just like you said about how you can cut off the time and have a conversation be very short or an argument be very short rather than days because you're being so defensive or not wanting to apologize. And we do all think of apologizing as like, oh, great, I gotta
Right.
apologize. I don't want to, but there is definite benefits to it. And so you had a list of 5 scripts to help turn things around in an argument. So will you give us just a couple of those that you think are really good?
Yeah. So the key to this piece is intention versus impact. So a lot
Okay.
of times people struggle to apologize
Hmm.
because they say, well, my intentions were really good. And
Hmm.
so they don't want to have to take accountability for the impact that their
Mm.
action had.
Ooh, I like that.
And what you have to realize is that even if your intentions were really good,
Yeah.
if your partner is still hurt,
Yeah.
you still need to attend to that pain.
Yeah.
And so the humility piece is right there. It's letting go of this idea of like, well, I don't have to apologize because my intentions were perfect. Letting
Hmm.
go of that and
Yeah.
saying, you know what? Like, because I care about my partner's pain,
Yeah.
I want to show up for them right now. And I want to just acknowledge their hurt. And so a script for doing this might be like, hey, I I really didn't understand the depth of my action and how it impacted you.
Hmm.
And I'm sorry. I want to know more. Can you
Hmm.
tell me what you're feeling?
Okay. I like that.
Once you do that, they're going to be so much more likely to look at your good intention. They'll be
Yes.
like, oh, thank you for listening. Like, I know you didn't mean to, I forgive you, right?
Yeah. And it can diffuse an argument and bring it,
Yes,
down to more of a calm level, right?
totally. I mean, another script, if you're trying to turn the argument around, is like, hey, this is especially if it's in a heated moment. Like, hey, I just said something that I don't mean.
Hmm.
Just being able to acknowledge that right out of the bat, even if you're still heated,
Hmm.
hey, I just said something that I didn't mean. Like, I know that's not fair. I need 5 minutes
Yeah.
to cool down.
Oh, I like it.
Putting a pause, being willing to own up to what you did in the moment. You don't have to apologize for it right now. Just say, like, I know I just did this. I need a break.
Hmm.
Then you can come back to it 5 minutes later, so much more calmly, and
Mm.
move forward.
I love that. I think pauses are huge. Taking time to just stop and breathe because we get so worked up. I'm guilty of it too. You just get so worked up and you start saying things that you don't mean. And if you
Hmm.
just stop, like you said, just say, just let me take a moment, you can get yourself in
Hmm.
such a better headspace. So I think that's
Right.
really good.
Because it,
Yeah.
it feels good to fuel the fire sometimes. It's like this rush of adrenaline. You're like, okay. But we have to remember, like, it also feels good to be zen.
Oh, it does. So true. So okay, you also have a pretty cool workbook called Understanding Your Defensiveness, and it's a digital workbook that's listed on your website. So tell us what the listeners can find in the workbook. I thought it was really cool, and I just want you to really emphasize on what they can learn in there and to use it and touch base on defensiveness. Again, we just did, and discuss
Hmm.
what tends to trigger these defensive reactions a little bit more and how we can manifest this into our day-to-day interactions.
Totally. Yeah. The workbook was something I did not expect to pick up the way it has. I didn't quite realize that defensiveness was such a key word for people,
Yes.
until I put out this workbook. And almost 500 people have bought this workbook,
Oh my
which
God.
totally blew my mind because
Yeah.
I just created it as like, oh, I think this would be helpful. I didn't realize it would have such an impact. So it's super cool.
That's
But
awesome.
yeah, inside the workbook itself, there's three parts. So there's the origins of
Uh-huh.
my defensiveness, which is where is the root of this? Like, is this a personality thing? Is this a family of origin thing? Is this a past trauma thing?
Hmm.
Then you have the triggers.
Hmm.
So what things are happening outside? What things are my partner doing that are triggering my defensiveness?
Hmm.
And then the manifestations. What does my specific defensiveness look like? It could look like blaming. It could look like justifying. It could look like shutting down.
Hmm.
And so you kind of go through those three sections.
Hmm.
And then once you have that information, it's a lot easier to recognize in the moment when you're being defensive and
Yeah.
why.
Yeah.
So which part you asked about, which part you said
So
the
I would, well,
triggers?
yeah, let's break those down for a second. The origins. Are you finding just working from a lot of people, do you find that a lot of defensiveness does come from childhood trauma, or is it just something, I think you're right. We don't talk about it as much, I think, because all the buzzwords have been gaslighting and toxic and
Mm-hmm.
self-love. We haven't really talked about defensiveness much at all. Where do you find that mostly that's coming from? Is there any one thing that stands out?
There's one reel that I made that has had a huge response. And in this reel, my husband, he's acting,
Yeah.
but this is a true scenario that I've seen in therapy many times. He's sharing, when I was younger, my older brother was the rebel
Okay.
and he was causing all these problems for my parents. And so I looked at him and I was like, I'm going to be the good kid.
Yeah.
I'm not going to cause any problems for my parents. And then in this reel, he makes this connection. He's like, I realize I ingrained that into part of my identity, that I'm the good kid. I don't make mistakes. I'm a non-problem child. So when you come at me and tell me that I've done something wrong,
Hmm.
that clashes with my perception of who I am as a person.
Yes.
And so that defensiveness comes up because it's like, well, that can't be right.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Perfect. What do you mean?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah,
Yeah,
that makes sense. And we don't even think about those little things that we do that you did as a child that could have that same impact so many years later, where it comes from.
totally.
Interesting.
Totally.
Love
I mean,
that.
another common trigger, which it's really awesome, the ADHD in adults is becoming more talked about, but ADHD, people who experience ADHD are often more sensitive in certain ways. And one of the things that this can cause is like a hypersensitivity to being defensive.
Mm,
And so it's also important to know about any diagnoses that you might have, about
mhm.
any predispositions that you might have, because those things can impact your emotional sensitivity. And that doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. It's just
Yeah.
something to be aware of so you know how to navigate that better.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. And then let's talk about the triggers. So, what kinds of triggers do you think could start that with defensiveness that makes you do that? Where does that come
Um, Tone is a big one.
from? Mm,
People get really caught up on tone, which is hard because I think it's important and people give it too much importance.
yes.
Like you might be defensive even if your partner used a perfect tone.
Yeah.
And so,
You're protecting yourself. Yeah.
right, tone could be a trigger. Time of day could be a trigger. Like if you've just finished something stressful and your partner brings a concern or complaint or criticism to you, you might be much more likely to be defensive in that moment.
Right.
And so
Yeah.
triggers are kind of just all the situational things that might be happening that would increase your defensiveness.
Mhm. Okay. And then the manifesting. Let's talk about that. So you said that certain reactions that we can work those into day to day manifesting. So what kinds of things? What exactly do you mean by that, and how can we do that?
Yeah, so manifesting how it shows up. I'm thinking of a person in my life, I won't name names, one of my family members, who, you know, you can ask him a question,
Hmm.
and if he doesn't want to answer it,
Hmm.
he's extremely good at just non-answers.
Oh, what
And
is
so, and
like deflect?
yeah, it's just kind of deflecting. It's like, I'm going to answer this question in my own way that doesn't really have to do with what you actually asked me.
Amazing.
And it seems harmless, like he's not saying anything rude or mean or bad, but that is defensiveness. That is
Yeah.
a way of self-protecting.
Oh,
And so
yeah.
that would be like a manifestation that maybe isn't the most common.
Yeah.
Um, Another
Yeah.
really common manifestation for couples is when I bring up that I'm hurt to my partner, and then
Uh-huh.
they respond by being hurt that I'm hurt.
Oh,
And so now I have to take care of them
damn it.
instead of them taking care of me.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so that's their defensive wall of like, oh, I don't want to have to deal with your pain, so now I'm going to be the hurt one.
Yeah. Gosh, yes, it's so tough. So what are some alternative reactions that will better serve our relationships in this case? What else can we do to kind of fix that?
The number one thing I think would help people is if they learned mindfulness, which is such a buzzword, but mindfulness is the ability to pause and get into your body and identify what's happening and re-regulate. So what this would look like in a defensive moment is, say my partner says, "Hey, you didn't take the trash out today."
Hmm.
Immediately I'm thinking, "Well, you didn't shut the dishwasher today." Like that's my defensive reaction. Before I
Yeah.
say that, I need to train myself to pause and take a
Uh-huh.
deep breath. Like do the full thing, the full breath,
Full breath. Yeah.
and tell myself, I'm safe.
Mm.
Like it's okay for my partner to be upset with me.
Yeah.
And actually say that to yourself.
Okay.
It's okay. It's okay that I didn't take the trash out. That doesn't make me a bad partner.
Yeah.
It's just something I need to address now.
Yeah.
And so you talk to yourself really calmly and remind your nervous system, I'm safe. I'm okay. And that allows me to then look at my partner and say, you're right. I forgot to take the trash out.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. And I'm able to do that because I know I'm safe.
Yeah. Saying, I love
That's
that.
kind of, yeah, it's kind of convoluted. How did that sound to you?
Yeah. No, that makes total sense because you're right. That is the first reaction we always have when somebody tells us what we did wrong. We want to, lash back real quick and just say, well, what
Hmm.
about you? Or you did this or you didn't do this. So
Yep.
I think that's really a smart idea is to just take a pause and really understand that it's okay. It's okay. No, maybe I didn't do that stuff.
Hmm.
I'll go do it now. I appreciate you letting me know. And I'm sorry I didn't do that kind of thing
Yeah.
instead of we're like, well, yeah, you didn't do the dishwasher, so
Right. Yeah, no,
whatever.
the easy trick I tell people to remember this skill is identify one true part of what they said.
Mm.
So let's give a fake complaint from someone in your life that they've said to you.
Um, that I don't call them enough. I'm
That
gone.
yeah, hey, you really don't call me enough.
Yeah.
I want you to come back to me with one true part of what I've said.
It's probably true because I'm a texter. I'm not a caller. So it's probably true that I'm not calling you enough. And I really should. I think my son would totally say this. I'm a texter. I don't really call because he talks a lot. It's a very
Yeah.
long, I know if I'm going to call him, it is going to be a good hour conversation at least, which is great. But that's why I don't call. But he's correct.
Totally. And so what you do in that moment is even if you're feeling annoyed, like I text this kid all the time, you
Yeah.
respond back with like, you know what? I haven't called you this week.
Yeah.
Like I can admit that that's
Right.
true, and you just admitting that part of what they said is true is
Hmm.
going to calm them down so much.
Yeah. I think he's literally said this to me. You never call me. And I'm like, I text you all the time.
Yeah.
Because I know what calling involves and I have to have time for that.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
that's a good one. That's good. So you stated that the three simple steps to repairing your relationship, and I'm going to give them to you, is one, to be present, two, to rediscover shared passions, and three, express gratitude. I love all of those. Can we touch base on each of those a little bit?
Yes. So many couples are struggling today because they are not present with each other.
Yeah. Phones.
Even when, right, phones, but even just overscheduling.
Mm-hmm.
And you think, oh, we're doing all these activities together. We're going here, we're going there. You're not slowing down. You're thinking about the pictures you're taking. You're thinking about the music on the playlist and the drive. You're
Mm-hmm.
not actually being present with each other. And so recently I was working with a couple and I told them, you need to have one weekend a month where you don't make plans
Yeah.
because they were just packing it in every weekend and they were fighting all the time because they never had a moment to breathe together.
Do you think some of that is the fear of just because I know when you start having stuff going on all the time and you guys are busy, you don't have to face any issues that might be going on in the relationship
Mm-hmm.
or spend that
Mm-hmm.
time together or have awkward silence. So you tend to pack things in. I know I kind of did that, as my marriage was kind of coming to a demise, and
Totally.
I was like, oh, if I just stay busy with him all the time, I don't have to have those conversations I don't want to have. Do you think that's why
Totally.
people do that stuff a lot?
I think it can totally play a piece of it depending on the situation. I think that absolutely can be. And that's another plug for doing it more often at the beginning of your relationship is then you're forced at the beginning to build in those moments where it's like make it or break it. Like if we
Mhm.
can't just like be together and be present, why are
Yeah.
we together?
We're together anyway.
Totally.
Yeah.
And so helping couples get back into the habit, and you're right, it's uncomfortable at first, especially
Yeah.
if you've been using it as kind of a crutch
Yeah.
for the relationship. It's really uncomfortable. And so you don't have to start with the full weekend. You can
Yeah.
start with 5 minutes a day of putting your phones away and just, sitting next to each other and holding hands.
It's a great
Just
idea.
that.
I
See how
think
it feels.
especially even that if you go to dinner, put your phone up and just
Yeah.
enjoy. It'll be there when you're done and just enjoy being present with each other. I think
Yeah,
that's
it makes such a
important.
big difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then rediscovering shared passion.
Ah, rediscovering shared passions, kind of along the same lines. We just let ourselves get so busy, and couples oftentimes grow apart because they're just growing in different ways, which is fine and beautiful. And like, it's okay to grow in different ways.
Mhm.
But if you're really hoping to maintain that long lasting connection, you also need to be growing together.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
so find a passion that you can both be excited about.
Hmm.
For me and my husband, it's traveling and seeing the world. Like, we both feel so connected to each other and to the world when we go someplace new.
Yeah.
And that's a really cool experience. And I think if we stopped, it's almost like the secret sauce for our relationship, right? I think if we stopped doing stuff like that, we'd just be growing like this.
Do you find that you always have like a trip planned at all time? Like when you finish one, you're now booking the other one because you know that's where you connect the best?
Yes, I think I actually have a problem. I think I need to stop booking so many times.
You're like, well,
Right?
where are we going next? It's addicting. It's addicting.
Yes, it is. It is. So I could practice my own stay present rule and like be content with where I'm at now and not always have to have a trip.
Trip plan.
But
And the last
uh,
one was express gratitude. So just being grateful.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, being grateful. But the key here for couples is to be grateful for who they are as a person, not for
Uh-huh.
something that they're doing for you.
Okay. Say that again for us. Say that one more
Yep.
time.
So there's a difference between I'm so grateful to be with you because you are so funny. You're
No.
such a light, right?
Yeah.
Versus I'm so grateful to be with you because like you make my bed every day.
yeah.
Both things are great,
Yeah.
but if you're only ever thanking them for stuff they do for you,
Yeah.
thanks for picking up the kids, thanks for
Yeah.
going shopping, like that ends up becoming so transactional and like you're not seeing them for who they are as a person. Like thanks for being so positive. Thanks for
Yeah.
being, you know,
Yeah. Oh, that's a huge one. I love that. That's great. Okay, good examples. All right. We're gonna talk about my favorite subject, sex. We're gonna talk about sex. Okay.
love it.
So I love some of your suggestions on your website about breaking through the orgasm barriers. I love talking about this stuff because I think it's not talked about enough, and a lot of people are really,
Hmm.
um, scared sometimes to hear about it, to talk about it. They're uh, intimidated. They're embarrassed. There's so many different things, and so I love that we can talk about this. So let's start with the fact that number one, if they are not breaking through the orgasm barriers, they're not alone if they're struggling,
Mm.
right? And then number two, foreplay starts outside the bedroom. So, okay, let's talk about number one. Tell me about what you mean by they're not alone if struggling, just to kind of let people know they're not alone.
Yes, a couple weeks ago, I pulled my Instagram stories
Mm-hmm.
and I got over 800 responses,
Mm-hmm.
and over 500 women said that at least some of the time they struggle to reach orgasm or they
Yeah,
feel frustrated reaching orgasm.
I believe it.
And then at least 20% said almost all the time it's frustrating.
Really? And what the others say, they're like, no, every single
Right. And there's that percentage that's just blessed, right? That's just, lucky. Um, which we're so happy for them.
I know.
Um,
Funny.
but you're not alone. I think women feel like, especially with the media that we have, you go on social media, you see all these sexy women or these couples that seem like they're having sex all the time, and you're like, is something wrong with me?
Me? Yes.
And I just want people to know, like, you're not alone.
Yeah.
Like, if it's hard for you to orgasm, you're not alone. There are tools to help, but also if the problem isn't fixed immediately, like it's okay. That's not the most important thing.
Hmm. Yeah. There's so much more to enjoy. Just
Totally.
the whole experience from beginning to end. Like you said, when it starts hours before, like you have to think about all of that plays into it.
Yeah.
So good,
Yeah.
right? And then, oh, well, so we were talking about foreplay starting outside the bedroom. So what kinds of things can they do to maybe get, their partner in the mood and get to that place that they want to be?
Yes. I know that kind of for my demographic, which is like young, busy moms.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I know this from talking with friends. Like 8 years ago, we were wearing lingerie all the time. Now we're just
Oh,
not,
wait.
right? But like, why not restart that? Why not
Yeah.
like in the morning go put something on under your clothes and like spend the day feeling sexy, which you
Ah,
don't do very often. And then by the time it gets to the afternoon or evening when you have a minute with your partner, you're
yeah.
you're in the mood, right?
You're in the mood. I like that. That's a
So
great idea.
things like that. I,
Yeah.
I also think, I mean, people feel different ways about like erotic literature,
Yeah.
but reading something that's like a little bit spicy can really help women who maybe are struggling to get in that mindset feel a little bit more excited.
Oh, that's a good idea. I remember when 50 Shades of Grey came out, and I'm not a reader at all. And I was like, all right, I'm going to try reading it. Girl, I was so turned on reading that book, and I did not even know, like, honestly, that was possible, because I'm just not a reader,
Totally.
so I never felt that. And I was like, yeah, like, this is exciting. I was like glued to the pages.
Totally, totally, totally. If I'm ever, excuse me, I go through phases of like what kind of books I'm reading. I like historical fiction. I like all sorts of stuff. But if I'm ever reading a romance novel,
Yeah.
I'll like open up the chapter next to my husband and like, do you want to hear what this chapter says? And he's like, I'm scared. But it's always fun, right?
Yeah, that's a great idea too, is to do something like that, make it a little something you do together and you read a chapter out loud together. That's a huge turn on and might start something.
Yes.
I like
Yeah.
that. I like
One
that.
more idea is you can have, so WhatsApp is like encrypted. I don't know if iMessage or other messages are, but something my husband and I do is we have a WhatsApp thread between us that's
Uh-huh.
like our alter ego.
Ooh,
Right. And so it's encrypted. It's not our normal text messages. So I
okay.
know that if he sends me something on there, I'm like,
It's different.
oh,
Oh,
yes,
ah,
right.
interesting. Okay. So is
Yeah.
it Allie and the normal day and Allison on the
Oh my gosh, I'm not going to tell you my name. It's
yeah,
private, but no.
that's awesome. Okay, my last question on this. Talk to the listeners about sexual desire differences and how they can have those types of discussions with their partners. I think that's really a huge thing to be able to open up to your partner and talk about what you like and what you don't
Mhm.
like. And a lot of people, it's a very intimidating, very scary thing to do and uncomfortable. I've always been like that too. It's an
Yeah,
uncomfortable thing. And I'm like, what more can you say than feels good? Feels good. You just
totally.
say. So just talk to us a little bit about that, what kinds of discussions they can have together.
Yeah, I just want to validate for anyone experiencing a desire discrepancy. It can be so challenging in a relationship because our physical bodies, it's like such a fine line between like my body, my choice, and then
Mhm.
in a long-term committed relationship, like refusing to ever be intimate.
Yeah.
It's so hard to find a balance that feels consensual, but
Yeah.
also works for the relationship. And
Right.
so I just want to validate to anyone listening who's experiencing that like it is hard and you're probably doing the best you know how, and that's okay.
Mhm.
Um, but as far as talking about it with your partner, I always suggest talking about it in a moment when you're not having sex. Like, bring this up.
A lot of pressure on when you're in the,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes, exactly. So like a morning on a Saturday when you're, sitting drinking your coffee, like talk about it then. Be like, "Hey, I would really like to be more intimate with you." Or maybe if you're on the flip side, say like, "Hey, I'm struggling with how much we're having sex. Like, what do you think about us trying some other types of intimacy for the next week?"
Mhm. Hmm. Yeah, doing some
And
different things.
yeah, and then approaching it again with what we talked about earlier, the I statements. So instead of like, "You don't want me," be like, "Hey, I'm feeling rejected.
Mhm.
Can we talk about it? Is there something that we could do to help you feel comfortable, but also help me feel like you are interested in me?"
So make it about yourself and how you're feeling and not about what they're doing right or wrong.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, those are great ideas. That's awesome. Oh my gosh, I've loved having you here today, Allie. This has been so much fun, and you're just so easy to talk to and open about questions, which makes it great for
Thank you. No, this was awesome. I love this. It was so fun.
a lot of good questions. So tell everybody where they can find you, your social media handles, and then also we're going to mention that there's a 25% off link for Paired if they want to try that out, and I'll make sure we put that in the show notes when the episode comes out so they can do that.
Amazing.
Tell
Thank
them
you.
where they
Okay,
can
so
find you.
yes, you can find me a few places. So first, at Paired App on Instagram.
Okay.
So I'm their head of relationships, and so a lot of the content that's going out, I've helped create or I've helped write, and it's kind of expert backed
Project.
relationship content, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Um, then we have at Relationships with Aly, and that's my personal page
Okay.
on
And
Instagram,
it's A
TikTok, YouTube.
L Y, just one L.
Perfect. Yep, one L A L Y. And then my website, relationshipswithally.com. That's where you can find the course, the workbook, etc.
Awesome. And it's a great website. So they should definitely go check it out. So before you
Thanks.
go, I'd love to play a little game from Mrs. to Ms. Would you rather? I have 10 easy
Okay.
questions. Just whatever comes to mind first. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Number one, would you rather give advice on handling an awkward accidental swipe right or help someone survive an unexpected run in with their ex?
Ooh, I would do the X. I think I like talking about interacting with your ex, so I would do that.
Ah, good stuff. Okay, number two. Oh, they're going to get this one. Would you rather give dating advice to someone stuck in their anti-hero era or someone or someone who can't stop living in their 1989 vibe?
Oh my gosh. 1989 vibe. Yes.
That's so
Gotta move on. Gotta move on, people from the
fun.
past.
We had to get our Swifty reference in here.
Yes, I love it.
Okay, number three. Would you rather work with someone who's been on 50 first dates or someone who's never been on one?
Oh.
It's tough.
Yeah, that both would be fun. I would say never been on one.
Yeah, because there's it's so untouched. Such a burden,
Totally.
right? Like,
Totally. And I like helping people feel more confident. And I feel like if you've never been on one, maybe it's a confidence issue.
yeah. Yeah, I like that. Okay, number four. Would you rather fall for someone who makes you laugh uncontrollably or someone who gives you butterflies every time they walk in the
Ooh, laugh.
room? Laugh. I like it. I like it. Number five. Blindfolded surprises or playful role play.
Oh
You're
my
on
gosh.
top.
Probably playful role play.
I knew your answer
Yes, you knew it.
before I said that. I gotta try that more. I keep telling people to try it. Try it. I haven't tried it myself.
Yeah.
I need to. Number six, would you rather have the ability to read your partner's mind during sex or be able to control their sensations with just a touch?
Definitely the second one. I would not want to be able to read anyone's mind ever.
Never. Number seven, trying new positions or mastering the classics.
Mastering the classics.
Yeah, stick to what you know.
Yeah.
Number eight, would you rather have a client? Ooh, this is a good one, Andrea. Would you rather have a client fall for you during a session or have their ex crash your coaching call?
Oh
So
my gosh, have their ex crash. Oh, how do you? Oh my gosh, please never, client.
I don't know how you get out of that one when they're all
Right.
into you. Oh my gosh, because there a lot of them are probably coming in as partners with you too. They're with their partner.
Totally. But you'd be surprised that like in couples therapy in grad school in all our ethics classes, they were always telling us like this can happen to anyone.
Interesting,
So
because I guess people see, they see the things that you're saying to do, and their person does nothing right. And you look like,
totally.
right?
Right.
Number nine, would you rather have a partner who constantly checks in on you throughout the day or one who prefers to give space but shows deep affection in person?
I
Like the
think the
constant
second.
second one?
Yeah.
Yeah, a little space
Yeah.
is good, right? And the
Yeah, I
build
like
up
that.
for the deep affection.
Yeah.
Number 10, last one, slow dancing in the living room or spontaneous dance moves in the kitchen?
Spontaneous.
I
Yeah.
like that's fun. Oh my
Oh,
gosh,
that
thanks
was
for
fun.
playing. I love to kind of
Thanks, Andrea.
by their questions. See, I knew the role play one. That was my jam.
Yeah,
Yeah. I
I
did.
loved it. That was cute. That was a cute idea.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been an absolute treat to have you. And I hope everybody goes, checks out your website. I'll have all the information in the show notes for them to find you. I'm going to check out Paired, even though I'm not in a couple. I just kind of want to see what it's all about. It sounds
Yeah.
very exciting. So I'm going to do that too. And to the listeners, I hope you're loving this information that you're getting and put it to good use. You can find me on any major streaming platform at From Mrs. to Ms. You can also email me with any questions, comments, or suggestions at info@FromMrs.to Ms.net. We'll see you guys next week. You guys have a great one. Bye.